Okay, so Middle-earth: The Shadow of War is possibly my most anticipated game now since maybe, like, Skyrim. And I'm someone who really, really likes my Skyrim, so that should be very telling for you. So why is that? Well, if you haven't seen the alpha gameplay footage they released, I highly recommend you go and take a little quick looky-see at it and just experience everything that they've done to enhance their game for the sequel, and that's something that I instantly gravitate towards. That's something that I instantly respect for the developers, because what they've basically done, by the looks of this gameplay, which is about 16 minutes long, it's also very good to see them release gameplay so early and like just be showing us things. Show us your game and make us want to purchase it. And this has absolutely done that, because everything that was in Shadow of Mordor that I enjoyed is back in Shadow of War by the looks of it, but what they've done is they've turned everything up to 11, and that is how you make an awesome video game and an awesome sequel. So when I was watching the gameplay for this, I have to say, like, for the majority of the time, my jaw was, like, dropped on the floor. I was looking at all this stuff that was reminiscent of the first game, but what they've done is they've done things like overhaul the entire Nemesis system, so you can have allies that have different storylines with the enemies and the war chiefs that you face, and all this other really cool stuff. They've added in, of course, new types of Nemesis, new traits they can have, all, like, extra voice acting and stuff. They're saying that it's going to become like a full story, that no one is ever going to have the same one and all that crap. It's going to be like your basic campaign story, of course, but you're going to probably have like different arch enemies and stuff that you're going to be facing a lot of the time. But man, this is everything good about video games, you know? Everything I was seeing in this, I was like, oh, that's a really cool idea. That's awesome. And then all the action, everything they started breaking out, like all the cutscenes of all the orcs breaking through into the fortress and all this awesome stuff, like, that's what I want out of a Lord of the Rings game. That's what I want out of video games. Just really silly, ridiculous, awesome crap that you can do. You know, I want to see orcs getting beheaded and stuff. I want to see the ability to release a dragon out of like a battering ram style flamethrower. That's freaking awesome. And it looks like they've taken their base game that the developers obviously really enjoyed making. They loved using the Lord of the Rings franchise, and they're just saying, you know what? Let's go all the way with this. Let's make it as silly as we can, but at the same time, as freaking awesome as possible too. And what they've done is they've taken a couple of things that we're used to seeing in games now, like the ability to have like an ongoing persistent warfare in your game and things like that. Like, you're taking control of territories in this game and stuff, but you're attacking fortresses and everything. It looks like there's probably going to be at least a dozen of them that you can attack. Now, I'm hoping that it isn't just taking over fortresses. I don't think it's going to be just that, but you never know. And man, I think one of the biggest complaints I had in the original Shadow of Mordor was that the two maps that you had were a little small. You know, it was pretty easy to maneuver around them, and they just weren't as expansive as I wanted them to be. So having different fortresses and stuff, that does alleviate that very well. And if they add in the ability to defend them and everything, they didn't explicitly state that you could do that in the gameplay that we got, but if you can defend them as well, then it adds an entire other gameplay system and gameplay mechanic as well. Another really cool thing was that when you take over the fortresses, or even when your enemy chieftains take over the fortresses, you can also like see how they change and everything depending on what their personality is. So the one that you're seeing right now, where the character is basically like assaulting, trying to take over this fort here, there's a bunch of fire and stuff everywhere. All the big things that you have to defend and fight against are fire-based, and that goes towards the war chief being like a super badass, fiery, like explosive combustion guy. He's like a dragon lord, and that's pretty cool. But then when you capture it later on, the war chief that you select, it changes the fort to have some passive bonuses, and it changes the look of the fort, and one would assume the defenses and everything again as well to suit the war chief that you select. So whether or not it's one of yours or one of theirs, it's always going to be a little bit different based on the traits and the qualities that the leaders have. and that's really freaking cool. Like, they've taken this Nemesis system and they've just added in a bunch of really awesome things. I mean, everything else, like the gameplay and stuff, looks very similar. It looks like they've added in some cool new abilities and everything like that, and I'm all for that. But you see other things like the beehives, they're still there. A lot of the assets, I think some of the animations are reused, and, you know, to be honest, like, that's not a huge problem for me, because the animations, they still work perfectly fine. It's not like they need to be like, oh, Tally needs to do completely new moves all the time and stuff. It still looks gritty and everything, and I would much rather they focus on adding in all these neat little cool things you can do, like attacking these forts and stuff, rather than just being like, okay, we need to add in a few new sword slashes, and then that's it, you know, like the old Assassin's Creed style thing. So, yeah, man, Shadow of War, this is something that I can definitely see myself getting hyped for. I'm not sure if I should be doing that. It's probably not a good idea. But you know what? I'm pretty confident in this one. It looks like it has a lot of potential. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. And it just looks like a ton of fun to play. You know when you see a video game and you're like, that looks like something I want to play. That looks super fun. We need more of that in life. So hopefully Shadow of War ends up being that. What do you guys think about the gameplay if you've already seen it? If you haven't, seriously go look at it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Special thanks to all the recent VidMe and Patreon supporters. If you want to support me, you can obviously go to either of those places and do that. Dude, seriously, that guy has like a Sauron hand and he just came back from the dead. That's super awesome. I am PattyJack. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day.